Hi, everybody. My name is Scott Murdoch, and I am the CEO and founder of Yucky Data. We are a data science consultancy centering on uh, health, mainly healthcare and litigation. And I appreciate being part of the NLP Summit today. I would like to present to you the NLP in a presidential election, what is possible. This is going to be more of a thought piece with some lit review. I'm going to be turning it over at the end to the audience for questions. This is really meant to be a discussion. This is something I've been thinking about with the presidential election coming up, and I decided that I would look into what has been done in the past. Not as much as I thought was done, at least not publicly, and we'll get into that. And so let's get started. So why should we care about the use of any kind of text mining, NLP in politics? Well, it's really centered around how politicians and political campaigns in general work, right? Everybody, I'm assuming on here, has voted, whether in the US or in some other country. And that's generally done by political campaigns or looking to get support from constituents, right? They think they're the best candidate for the job and they want to show that to you. The way they can do that is by making sure that they address the issues that are the most important to you. So how do they do that? Well, in the past, they shake hands. They poll, they go to town halls. The candidates discuss a number of topics and they try to tailor their responses specifically to the prospective voters' view, right? So you can think about how text mining would allow a prospective politician to have a better idea of what topics they should cover. Here's some selected literature. Automated detection for political opinions in tweets, political profiling and feature engineering with NLP. This is a very good article. The author suggests that the use of a more official source for the politicians, such as a Wikipedia page with the House, with a House representative political party in it, gains the individual's trust. And then personalization of politics and the use of natural language processing to analyze tweets and mentions during the 2020 presidential election in Towards Data Scientists. This is also a really great article. It shows what happened during the primary elections. I would suggest checking it out. Okay, so what are the learnings from this? The big thing that I learned is there's no real direct literature from a political campaign. I was expecting to find a white paper at some point from one of the past head data scientists of a political campaign, whether it be a presidential campaign or a local government campaign, most likely a state level campaign. I know a presidential campaign might be a little much for them to publish, but I thought at least at a state level, like from an academic perspective, a post-election result in the white paper would be seen. But I couldn't find anything really credible. Most of the analysis are centered around predictions and polling, and by predictions I mean the prediction of the outcome of the election or the primary, right? A politician could use this as a competitive advantage to target the subjects that are the most important to individuals by location, right? They could do an NLP that looks at, has a geotag on it with the tweets and what they're talking about to try to center around what would be the most important for the town hall or when they make a speech in that town. A lot of it centers around sentiment analysis to determine the direction of how a voter feels on a particular topic. And there is the potential, while I haven't seen much, but the potential of targeting ad selections based off of particular topics. There's no real official literature on this, but you've seen it in the news quite a bit with Facebook and other companies that people are at least talking about it. So what are the pitfalls of this? Really, the main pitfall is the length of the posts that people are talking about. Most of these political posts are coming from Twitter or Facebook, which are very short posts, and political views are usually rooted deep in an individual's background and upbringing. So it's very hard to gauge from a short post. While you get maybe what they're talking about, you don't get exactly what they're feeling, which is really what the politician is looking for, right? Or what you would need to do a proper analysis on this, right? And once again, it's mostly centered around sentiment and group topping. Okay. So what about the future? One thing I don't see a lot of that I think could be great is a politically centric corpus. When you're talking about politics, it has a very particular nomenclature, especially dealing with certain topics, and those are not incorporated in a normal dictionary. So having a politically centric corpus to do the analysis on would be very helpful. That would be a great way for an open source tool to gain popularity. There are more sophisticated models coming out in the last couple of years. Particularly, I think what would be helpful is deep learning with NLP. This could allow for more word prediction, getting better understanding of the contextual inference within short text like tweets, right? They can really get better understanding of what that tweet is talking about. The last one is hierarchical clustering. This is something like a Brown clustering or a word clustering, word W-A-R-D. Sorry, I have a hard time pronouncing that one. To use that type of clustering where you can get the high-level topics that people are talking about when they are talking about very specific things would help sort of group those texts into higher levels of issues to help analysts understand what are the high-level topics that people are targeting, even when the tweets are more specific. And the last thing that I really want to talk about, the whole point of this presentation to me, is I want to have a group discussion around the ethical implications of this. So I'm going to give you 3 scenarios, and I want you to think about it for a minute. With all the models evolving, prediction getting better and better, computational power getting better and better, this is only going to become more of a reality. My question to you is I want you to consider these 3 scenarios. The first one is a political campaign uses NLP to gain insights into potential voters from last night's debate. Classic example that's already been done. It's essentially a polling exercise, right? This is the second one is using a campaign. A campaign uses text classification to trigger different ads that they have rolled out. Once again, it's been talked about. There's not a ton of literature from an academic point of view on it, but it's certainly been talked about. I think people know that it at least happens, even if it's not very granular. And then let's go one step further, incorporating sort of both of those. You incorporate both sentiment analysis and targeting analysis. What if a political campaign was to use sentiment analysis with contextual text to figure out what are the issues that are the most important to an individual? Now, they want to get elected. We're assuming they're benevolent politicians, but not everybody is. What if that is somebody that is not, unfortunately? They could have the opportunity to maximize the number of votes by targeting ads to whatever people feel is the most important to them, regardless of what their personal belief that they're targeting to the larger group is, right? This will gain trust with the constituents because they feel like they're on their side, and allow them to get more people to listen to them for a short bit, and then gain trust further and further, do more handshaking, and gather more votes. What would be the case in this? Do you think this is ethical? Is my question, right? And so think about that for a minute. And the last thing that's a natural transition is assuming that last piece, whether you think it's ethical or not, it is possible that somebody could want to do that, even if not now, in the near future. Should there be an oversight for this? Should there be laws in place on how political campaigns can use artificial intelligence for gathering information on constituents and how they roll out their campaigns to those constituents? If it's not a law, what about, non-government organizations or watchdogs? And then lastly, along these same lines, this is something that you've seen Google talk about and other large AI companies. What about within company ethical bounds, right? Should there be within a company guidelines on how to use artificial intelligence in an ethical manner? I personally have worked on documents like that for companies. Right now, they are very high level, right? They still have a long way to go, in my opinion. I've never seen a company like Google, but I've seen mid-sized companies, and they're very general on best practices, mostly, not on and model biases, not necessarily how the model should be used. And that's what I have today. I'm going to turn it over to the group for a group discussion, and I really hope this will be a lively discussion on the ethical implications within politics and AI, and furthermore, anything else. That's what I have today. Thank you.